Welcome to your best bets. It's a Wednesday fall evening as of this recording. It feels like fall is finally here in the lovely city of Fort Wayne. Um, been talking about golf and football for a while, and we haven't talked about NBA. And I guess really since I guess we did a finals preview and in June, and we've had a lot happen in the league since then. So we're going to talk about the 2022-2023 season tonight, talk about some over-unders, some props, MVP odds, and a new segment that these guys have been making fun of me about that I'm excited about. Johnny Strauzer's here, frequent guest on the golf podcast, also been on for NBA as well. Pistons fan. Johnny, how are we tonight?
We're good. We're excited. Excited to talk about this season and get it started here. Usually I'm a little hesitant because it's the sign of fall, cold weather. Golf clubs are going away. But you know what? Looking and doing research on this NBA stuff, I'm kind of excited to talk about how the season's gonna, how it's going to get underway here. And I'm excited to watch some basketball coming up here.
It's good to get. It's really nice to have it back. It feels like October's low key one of the best months of the year, I think, with NFL and college football, still some fall golf, and then basketball starting up. I guess we could talk about like MLB playoffs as well, NHL starting, but not nearly as excited about those two things. Collin Quinlan is here. Collin, it's been a while. What's new? How are you?
Yeah, I think it's last time I was on, I think I was on the finals preview. I can't exactly remember. I think it was around that time, but it's October, one of my favorite times of the year. Love the MLB playoffs. I know you guys aren't the biggest fans of baseball, but I always seem to watch it.
Johnny is.
No. Big fan.
Oh, you are. You are.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's just Phil then.
Just Phil.
Missing out, I guess. But, October, one of the best times of the year. We get all the sports kind of coming together all at once here. So it's pretty nearing the middle of the year during school here. October fall break coming up. So I'm excited for that and ready for the NBA season to get started here.
Where does fall rank for you guys in the seasons? Is it top, bottom? Where do we lie, Johnny?
I'm so glad you asked me this question, and I've just loved it. I think the idea of fall, the concept of it is fantastic. But being from Michigan and now living in Indiana, fall is kind of garbage because you get maybe a week and a half when the leaves change and it's not rainy and windy. But fall concept is great, but the actual nice weather days aren't that good. I think where it's great is, football's, getting into full swing and NBA season. And we got college basketball that's going to be here in about, I think 6 weeks or less, something like that. So, you've got that. So I'm still and always going to be a summer guy, but fall, I would rank a distant second place. Although if we lived maybe in a different region where you actually had okay and not shit ass fall weather, I'd probably rank it close to first.
Collin, is it close to the top for you?
Fall is actually my favorite time of the year. I hate the heat, except if I'm by water. So I'm not a huge fan of the summer. I like the, all the activities that go on during the summer. But as for the heat, I'm not a huge fan. I love the fall weather, like 60-degree days, 50-degree days, windy and sunny. Oh, it's my favorite type of weather. So can't really beat that. We do not get that all the time around here. We get, like Johnny said, a week or two of it at best. It's either we get the 80-degree fall days or the 40-degree fall days. There's really no in between, unfortunately. But if it were consistent, I'd say fall is probably the best, but I'd say it's a 1A, 1B type of situation with summer.
Yeah, we got daylight savings time coming up this weekend. That's a tough one when it's going to be around 6 o'clock and then closing in in a month where it's 5 o'clock and it's dark. So that's tough. I do like getting up on a Saturday morning. You feel that crisp air. You get a hoodie on. You take a walk. You can feel in the air. It's just the sense of college football that day. There is something about that feeling that's very specific to fall. Yeah, it's probably ranked second for me. I like summer the best as well. But I have been low key looking forward to the fall weather, nice 60, 65 degree days. Lot you can do with that kind of weather. All right, gentlemen, NBA. Coming off of the Golden State Warriors winning yet another title. They're fourth in this run here since 2015. I feel like a lot happened in the offseason. My kid, he's almost 11. I think he enjoys the NBA offseason more than the actual season because there's so much stuff that happens with the draft and then free agency and just the constant drama from the day-to-day of this guy's unhappy, he's demanding to be traded, or there's rumors about this guy being traded. Felt like a lot happened as far as trades or guys wanting to be moved and maybe they weren't moved. Collin, what do you think was the biggest, I guess, biggest off-season move that actually happened?
I'd say biggest move was maybe Mitchell. I'd say. I think the whole unloading of the Jazz was pretty interesting. I don't know if we all saw that coming. I know I kind of personally thought you did.
No, I was doing Brian Windhorst.
I know me personally, I kind of expected them to hold on to Mitchell at the very least, but I think that whole kind of unloading of the team was a little bit shocking to me. So I think that was probably the biggest move in my eyes.
Does that make the Cavaliers any closer to the top echelon of the East, though?
I don't really think so. I mean, he's a great player, but I don't really think that does much for them. They'll be still a contender, I think, but I don't think that's enough to push them over a top contender, say the Celtics or the Bucks.
Kind of where I'm at, but we can dig into a little bit to the Cavs later. Johnny, what was your take on the biggest offseason move? Was it the same, or you have something else?
Well, I mean, the biggest one was obviously Durant not being traded or rescinding the trade, which I'm sure we'll discuss later. That was obviously the biggest one, but yeah, the Jazz unloading everybody was kind of interesting there. I think what they did for setting themselves up for the long term was great. I mean, that Gobert trade was just, I mean, dynamite for the Jazz for the future. They're getting 4 first-round picks from that. But the one that I'm thinking is going to be the most interesting one is Dante Murray to the Atlanta Hawks. Murray was definitely up and comer. We talked about him a year ago on this podcast as a, I think, most improved player. He was going to be a guy that we were really, really big on, and he had a great season. I mean, he's a good player. And I think that was a real interesting one because you put him in a backcourt with Trae Young now on an up and coming team. And I think it just didn't feel like they could jump up into that top 3 or 4 with that current roster as it was structured, even though it is a good roster. But, you've got Trae Young, who's a really, really good offensive player, very, very small, and has a lot of defensive deficiencies. You can kind of take pressure off of him on offense with Murray being a plus point guard who can also score. And I think that trade there is just interesting because I think that way that roster is constructed, when they start to gel, which may take 10 games, may take 15 games, something like that. I could see that possibly giving them a run, somewhere in that top 4, which I think, if you look at home court in the first round, I think that's when you're looking at where you want to be in the Eastern Conference. I think that's kind of where they're at right now, is one of those top contenders in that, I guess, in that high second tier.
I think you like it sounds like you like the Hawks probably a little bit more than I do. I'm interested to see how that's all going to play out with Murray and Trey. If Trey is going to play a little bit more off the ball this year, but I do think Murray is much more of a well-rounded player with his defensive ability. So I do appreciate the teams that are at least making a push. That I like that the Cavs are making a play at it. They have a really good roster, a good young roster. So I appreciate the teams that are really going for it. I'm going to the Boston Celtics. I really liked their acquisition of Malcolm Brogdon, and they did not give up really that much for him. A first rounder and Aaron Nesmith. Okay, sure. I'll talk about Brogdon a little bit later. I really like him for sixth man of the year. But I think what he is going to provide is more of a consistent third scorer for the Celtics and just a little bit more stability at the point guard position, considering Marcus Smart was their point guard last year. And although he's a very good defensive player, there's not a lot there on the offensive end. And he sometimes he pops up and he makes 6 threes, but there's a lot of those times where he's got the 0 for 7 line and you never know where his head's at. So I really, really love the Brogdon acquisition for that team. I know they've had a bit of a controversial few weeks with their head coach and that situation, but I still love their roster. I still think they're going to be at least in the top 2 or 3 in the East this year. Johnny, you mentioned Durant staying. I think Brooklyn is probably the ultimate. What do we do with this team situation, right? Because we have Durant making his offseason demand, and then asking for the GM and or the head coach to be fired. None of that happens. We have the Ben Simmons situation where he's coming back. We saw him airballing a shot on the playground today in a viral video. Kyrie, what's the over-under on games played by him this year? But there's so much talent that it wouldn't be a shocker if they won 57 games this year either, right?
Yeah, it's just a matter of how much you're going to see these guys on the court. When they had James Harden there, part of last season until he was traded, and then in the season prior, the guys, the big three just were never on the court together, and that was you just never knew what kind of potential that was. But they've got some shooters on that team. You've got Durant, and as long as Durant is somewhere near his peak talent, which he's not really gone down at all in ability here, or at least shown that as of yet. You've still got, one of the best scorers of all time, on the team there. And I think if Simmons was, if he's of sound mind and they could get him on, the same page of playing hard and winning ball games, he's a perfect complement to, Kyrie and to Durant. So there is so much potential. And that's why you look at those odds, their numbers to win the championship are really, really short, because the team is constructed fairly well that, they could get by with those role players, because they've got the right guys that are there. But it's just question marks for me is Durant going to be, is he going to want to be there by the end of the season? What's going on with Kyrie? They're talking about not re-signing him. So, are they going to trade him? What's Ben Simmons? What are you going to get from him? There's just there's more questions that I've got about this team than they've got talent or we've got answers for at this point. So, with the numbers, the win totals, with the MVP stuff, with the 6-man stuff, and the East champion, the NBA champion, they're, for me right now, I think every single bet that I see them on the board, I've got to wait. I can't place a future bet on them because we just don't know at this point, right?
Yeah, I don't think a lot is made of this, but Kevin Durant's 34 years old. He's had some major injuries. Now, last year, when he was on the floor, he looked good. He played like the normal Kevin Durant, but it gets to that point where you start to question, when are we going to start to see the downside? And I feel like the Nets, though, are the epitome of this league, quote unquote, just drama of the league, because there's so much with that team and with those top three guys, and so much talent, but so many question marks. Collin, we haven't seen Kawhi Leonard play a basketball game in, I think, about a year and a half, and I'm a little surprised that the NBA title odds reflect that the Clippers are the third favorite behind the Bucks and the Celtics. What is your expectation for the Clippers with Kawhi and Paul George being as healthy as they've been since this thing started? I believe this is year 4 of this run, right?
I think that's right. Yeah, I know they've been good when they've been on the floor together. I know we haven't seen that in a while, but I think if they're both playing up to the capabilities that we've last seen them at, they're going to be a very good team. They added John Wall. Who knows how he's going to be? I know we haven't seen him play in a long time either. So I'm sure
for
if
like
he can
5
be anywhere
years.
near, yeah. But if he can be anywhere near Reggie Jackson, I'm sure they'll be just a just fine team. I think they definitely have the capabilities to be a good 1-2 punch up there with Tatum and Brown, if in terms of duos, if they can come back as healthy as we've seen them before. So I don't necessarily think those odds are crazy, but we definitely need to see how they're looking to put those odds to the test.
We mentioned earlier, or maybe we mentioned this before we recorded, the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes. I can't think there's been quite a prospect like him. I mean, just his unique size and ability and athleticism. There's a lot of really bad teams this year. Johnny, who's going to be the worst team that's going to have the best odds to have the number 1 pick to pick him?
I think
in the summer.
Well, I mean, they're gonna just be awful, and these teams, because this guy is, and they've said it, he's the best prospect since LeBron James, and I would agree. I mean, I've only seen highlights of the 2 games that they've had on one of the ESPN channels, and he's unreal. I mean, just watching him. I think you're going to look at Utah. You're going to look at the Pacers as 2 really bad teams. Maybe Orlando, but Orlando's starting to get those younger guys in there, and I think they're going to start winning some games. But there's going to be some really bad teams, and they're going to try their hardest to be that bad. And I just, I don't know, Oklahoma City maybe. You mentioned San Antonio, because San Antonio, I don't even think they have an NBA player on their roster, do they? I mean, so, it's going to be this sweepstakes, and they're going to give it their all, because between him and the guy who played the game there on the other side, Scoot.
Yeah. The number 2
Henderson, yeah.
And I mean, he seems to have a lot of pro potential. So, we're going to see some tanking that we have not seen in a long, long time. And I know they've tried to prevent that from these NBA teams, but these squads are not gonna. They're going to do what they can to get in position to give themselves a chance at the number 1 or number 2 pick. And so I think there's going to be a good sweepstakes for them, and it could be 4 or 5 teams that do that.
Yeah, I mean, the top 2 prospects, I think there's a clear line between 1 and 2. There's a clear line between 2 and 3. Unfortunately, neither for the college basketball game, neither of those guys are going to be playing in the college game. That's kind of a tough scene for college basketball this year. But yeah, there's a lot of really bad teams going through the overs unders the last couple of days. I can't get past how bad the Spurs roster is. Keldon Johnson's their best player. Devin Vassell, Jacob Pertl. I mean, I guess
holy shit
would be their 3 best players. The Jazz have a lot of dudes. They have a lot of dudes that just want to score. They got the Collin Sexton and those types, that they got 3 or 4 of those that just pretty much going to try to score at will. But I don't know. Maybe from a league pass standpoint, that wouldn't be a bad team to go check out. Um, I want to talk about our favorite over-unders on win totals. The assignment was for each of us to give our 3 or 4 best plays that we like, overs unders on FanDuel. Of course, books might have a different number, but we're using FanDuel for these purposes. I had quite a few I liked, and I had to really narrow it down. I don't know if you guys had the same situation. Collin, give us do you have any locks for over or under?
Spurs under 22.5. I think they're going to be horrible. Like one of the lowest win totals we've seen in a while. I think they're going to be that bad, and especially with a guy like Victor out there, I think this is I think it's a lock. I don't know how they're going to win more than 18 games. They're really bad. So I think that one's a lock, and I also like the Blazers under 39.5, just because they won, I think, 28 or 29 games last year, and they really didn't make any improvements to the roster. So I don't know how they're going to win 10 plus games from last year. So I like that one as well.
I had the Spurs under written down, so I feel a little bit better that at least one of you had it. The Blazers, interesting, team as far as I guess, do they have play-in tournament potential? But then you go through the teams in the West, and you kind of start knocking teams off the list right away. And we know that they're not better than at least 7 or 8, and they're probably competing with teams like the Kings. I hate to say it, but probably the Lakers for like the 9-10 spot. Johnny, who was one of your locks?
I did write down the Spurs. Actually, for the Spurs, I will say, if I would love to be able to tease that win total down to like 13, like 13.5, and play that at like plus odds.
Alternate.
I would be all about that if that was something like that. Utah Jazz under 23.5. I like that one a lot. They're going to score points, but they're going to lose a lot of games, 130 to 120. It's just crazy numbers because they're not going to play any defense, and that'll be kind of cool. But they're just going to get outscored because they can't stop anybody. The other one I like is I'm a big fan of is it's a kind of a high number, but I still am feeling really good about it, is the New Orleans Pelicans, 44.5. I like the over on that. And I'll tell you why is, and I'll talk about him later on here during the podcast, but Zion Williamson, I'm sure you guys have seen pictures of him and how he looks and everything like that. Dude is in shape now. And hopefully I know he had some issues with the possible, mental health stuff about not feeling good, gaining weight and all that, not playing, but he's healthy now, cleared to play. And, I remember his rookie year when he was playing, 20 minutes a game, a little bit of the first quarter, a little bit of the third quarter, then the fourth quarter. And he was just, he's leaps and bounds more athletic and better than a lot of the guys out there. And I think finally, if we can see him for 60, 65, 70 games, he's going to be a big part of that. And having CJ McCollum there, who they acquired, I don't know if, it's truly appreciated, but this team started out last year 3-16 and ended up being the 8th seed after winning the second place in the play-in series, or the play-in tournament, and finishing the 8th seed there. So, if Brandon Ingram can truly be that second option and play team basketball, which, when he was scoring all those points pre-Zion, you and we were playing over his point total quite a bit because he'd shoot it 30, 35 times a game, it seemed like. So he was just going to get his points there. But I'm going to give another shout out to fellow U of D class of 2003, Willie Green, their head coach, for turning that team around, going 3-16 to start and making them a playoff team. And I played them last year and lost that bet. So I'm all about them this year. I think 44.5, I think they're pretty safe to win, somewhere in that 45 to I don't know if they'll win 50 games, but I think it'll be something close there if Zion can stay healthy.
I really like that one. I really like that. I really like their roster. I mean, Brandon Ingram has become a really, really good player.
Yeah.
I like Herb Jones defensively. Trey Murphy, I like that. Valanciunas, like and maybe in a playoff series, I don't love him, but the regular season, like dude puts up big
Double
numbers.
machine.
Yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon to see him have like 22 and 15 pretty regularly. I like that team. I think they're at minimum a play-in team. I mean, I go through the West. I think of Golden State, Denver, the Clippers, the Mavericks, Phoenix, I guess the Timberwolves, Memphis. I think that's your top 7. So one of those teams is a play-in team. That's kind of crazy. And then your next echelon is probably not necessarily in order: the Lakers, the Pelicans, I guess Sacramento. Foreshadowing. I love Sacramento this year. And then the Blazers. I mean, I think there's only a couple really deplorable teams in the West: Utah, OKC, San Antonio. Collin, does that sound about right?
Yeah, those bottom 3 teams are going to be really bad. But other than that, I think the other 11 or so teams should be pretty competitive, I'd say 10 or 11 teams. So I think those bottom 3 teams are going to be horrible, but the rest of the teams should be able to play in for the play-in at least.
Can I say I love the play-in? Like, I love it. This is the best thing the NBA has introduced in a while. I mean, I think it creates so much more intrigue, and it feels like those teams that were, the last 20 games of the season that were on the outside in the old system at least have something to play for. If they get hot, they can get in, the top 10, somewhere slated in the 7 to 10 seed, and then, make a case to try to get somewhere in the playoffs. I don't know. I'm a big fan. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I was really skeptical because I'm of the baseball mentality that you play all these games and only your season long record should determine, getting in the playoffs or not getting in the playoffs. But seeing how that went, I mean, yeah, you catch a little fire, you play good, maybe you're the 10th seed, but you got a chance. You just got to win a couple ball games there, and you could still kind of prolong the interest into the season, not only for the fans, but for the players as well. And it definitely added to some intrigue there, because usually most of the first round series aren't very good. And then the end of the NBA season is pretty much hot garbage, because most of those guys are just, if they're not going to make the playoffs, they're done. If they're not playing for a certain seed, they're just kind of coasting and everything like that. So I liked it, and I kind of hope they keep it. I mean, it's just this little thing of a few games that it's like, okay, this is something that can kind of get us ready for the playoff basketball that we're about to see.
Yeah, I think it just adds a little excitement to it's a nice appetizer to the playoffs. I think I'm up on over under here. I have and it's not quite a lock, but it's close. I have the Toronto Raptors over 46.5. I love this roster so much. They have so many guys that are 6'9" with a wingspan of like 7'4". Siakam, Anunoby, Scotty Barnes is ridiculously good at basketball. I think he's going to be an all-star this year. Gary Trent can shoot. I love Fred VanVleet. Precious off the bench. They got Otto Porter, who fits that same mold. I just think defensively, it'd be a nightmare to play these guys healthy, because their switchability on defense. I'm waiting on the OG Anunoby true breakout season. I think him as center would be, I mean, on this team could just open up so many avenues with Siakam and Barnes. So I love the Raptors this year. 46 over 46.5. I love them as a bit of a dark horse to win the Atlantic Division. That's at plus 850 on FanDuel. You can actually find it at 13-1 on DraftKings, though. So I kind of am all in on the Raptors this year. So I love their over.
I'm a big fan of that team this year, and I thought about too. I was thinking, and we'll probably talk about it later on down the road here on the show, but is having them as either division champions or to win the East, or even bet them as a NBA champion. Not that they may win that, but you kind of create hedge opportunities for your betting that if they could make it that far, then you're kind of guaranteed either the big payout of them winning, or you could end up betting the favorite out of the East, during the playoffs there. And then you've got that perfect opportunity where you make money regardless. But you're right. I think they're built for the playoffs. And Nick Nurse is still the coach, right? He's still.
That was my other.
And
Nick Nurse is a top 5 coach, right?
Top 5 easily. Yeah. Yeah. I like that bet. So that was your near mortal lock here?
It was a near lock, but not quite. The mortal lock. That'll be my last one.
Oh, that's not even it.
But I do love the Raptors this year. Collin, who do you got next?
For over-unders?
Yeah.
I really like the Pistons over 29.5.
Okay.
I think they've done a lot to this roster, and I think they've improved a lot. I think Cade's going to take a big step this year, and I really like adding Jaden Ivey. So I think they're going to compete in a lot of games. They might not necessarily win them all, but I think they'll be in position to win a lot of these games this year, and I think they'll sway over that 29.5 this year. So I'm going to hope for that for them this year, and I think they'll be able to do it because I really like the roster that they have right now.
Johnny, I assume you're in on that.
You want me to add my? I do like that bet. I do like it. I don't love it. It opened 2 months ago, whenever it was, at 26.5, and that was bet so hard that it's jumped up 3 games. And this team is probably going to win anywhere from 25 or 26 to 31, 32 games. I don't think they're quite ready to take the leap and win 42, 41, 42 games, get to 500. But for the exact points that you made there, I think is right. I think Cade Cunningham is going to take that next step. He showed a lot of flashes after he recovered from injury last year, was really putting up some crazy numbers. I mean, he was averaging like 19, it was like 19, 7 and 6 or something like that as a rookie, which is pretty remarkable. And as long as Jaden Ivey can adapt to the pro game, I like how this roster is constructed. Now, the thing is Troy Weaver, who kind of tore down the OKC Thunder and built them for a while to acquire all those draft picks. He kind of acquired a lot of good players in OKC, but they just kind of spun their wheels where they never could develop these guys. That's going to be the question is turning these guys into NBA players. But I mean, between those two guys, and you got Sadiq Bey, who is an all rookie. He's a great shooter, good defensive player. And they've got some guys on that roster that are pretty fun to watch. And I'm actually looking forward to getting to watch them all season long. So I don't mind that bet at all. I wish it was a couple wins lower, because I see 29 wins this year, 30 wins maybe, and that's where a couple calls, a couple, fouls, guys falling out here and there might affect it. But I think they're going to be a fun team. And I saw that they're actually the most bet team to make the playoffs this year at plus 900, which is interesting. I don't see any path to them doing that. I don't think they're ready to take that big a step, but I think people will enjoy watching them. I hope they're on TV quite a bit, because I think Cunningham and Ivy is going to just be a really fun backcourt to watch, hopefully for the next 5, 7, 10 years.
It feels like a really fun league pass team for sure. And did I see that Cade's playing at like 245, 250?
No, I don't know if he's quite that big. That's where he wants to get, because that's where Grant Hill's size was. He was like 6'8", 245. And that's where he wants. He did add 20 to 25 pounds of muscle, though. He is noticeably bigger this year. And Still shooting the ball pretty good. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see what his game is going to look like come a couple weeks from now. But he's definitely bigger. 250 though, I don't know. You lose your quickness though, I think, right?
That's kind of, well, that's my Anthony Davis take, and I'll talk about him later. Yeah, acquiring Marvin Bagley, I don't know what that's going to do really, if anything. But I do really like Sadiq Bey. I do think Jaden Ivey's game translates better to the NBA. And I mean, he was a very good player in college, but his game was built for the NBA. So I love the base of this team, and yeah, I think maybe they're a year away, maybe a couple moves away as well, but it should be fun to watch. Johnny, what's your next one?
Next one, this one I don't love, but I'm big on this team is the Denver Nuggets. Their total is a little bit high at 51.5, but I think they're good, and I'm banking on their guys to be healthy, and that's going to be a big question is if Murray can come back healthy, and if Jokic can be still the MVP, play at the MVP level. But I kind of like their smaller acquisitions. When they acquired who was it? Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Bruce Brown, you good role playing guys, but any West team is really hard to play on their over bets on total wins. But that's a team that I actually think I'm going to place a bet to win the NBA championship for. And I'm kind of hoping that they're going to get into that 55 win, area there with the hopes that teams like the Lakers or, if the Clippers are resting guys, where they can steal some of those wins there. Cause I think they're a pretty complete team, and that's what impresses me.
This is the team that was my mortal lock. The Denver Nuggets over 51.5.
That was it.
That's it. A lot of the reasons you already said. They were the 4th ranked offense last year. That's without Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. That's how good Jokic has played. They've exceeded this win total the last 2 years. Again, last year without their 2 of their 3 best guys. There was a large part of last season where Bones Highland was making a huge, and by the way, good off the bench guy, but where he was like the second best player on that team. So they're getting Jamal Murray, who last time we saw him was just dominant in the bubble, putting up 50-point games. Michael Porter Jr. is such a skilled offensive player. If he could just stay healthy. So yeah, there is a caveat with these guys, but this could be a absolutely devastating offensive team with those 3. I love the KCP pickup. Bruce Brown is the perfect guy for this team because someone's got to play defense, so he's a perfect 3-and-D guy. I love those 2 acquisitions. They fit perfectly with the team. They're deep. They can shoot. They can score. Aaron Gordon is a decent defensive presence. So I like Mike Malone as a coach. I don't think he's like a top 5 coach, but I think he's built something really solid there. So I absolutely love the Nuggets this year. That's sort of my Raptors of the West. Collin, are you in on this as well?
I had them on my list, but I was a little scared of the 51.5 just because I don't know how the injury situation is going to go. This team never seems to stay healthy. So they're obviously going to win the games. Jokic is going to perform like he usually does. And as long as those 2 guys can stay healthy, I don't see a reason why they can't get over that 51.5, especially with those acquisitions of those 2 key guys that you guys noted there.
Yeah. So Collin's in on it. I don't think he's as excited about the Nuggets as Johnny and I are, but I think we can call that one a clean sweep on the over. I have, and this is not a lock, but I have the Dallas Mavericks under 48.5 wins. I just don't know. All those teams we talked about in the West, there's obviously only a certain amount of wins to go around. Jalen Brunson, I feel like that loss was a little bit more important than people gave it credit for. Do I think Jalen Brunson is like a true game changer where maybe he deserved that contract with the Knicks? Probably not, but I do think he was pretty integral and fit that he had built with Luka. I don't think Luka is necessarily the most easy guy to play with. He is amazingly good at basketball, and he could potentially average a triple double this year, like a 30, 10, and 10. It wouldn't shock me. That's how good he is. But I just have a lot of question marks about the supporting cast of this team. Is Spencer Dinwiddie their second best player? Is it Christian Wood? I really don't know. Tim Hardaway comes back. That's great. But man, it's like you're relying a lot on Dorian Finney-Smith and guys like that. And I just don't know. Now Luka could just say, I'm the best player in the world, and we'll win 52 games easy. But I feel a little bit better about the under 45, 46 wins for the Mavs is where I would go with that.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that team either. I don't really think they did anything to help center that team around Luka. I know Christian Wood it's a decent pickup. I think he does fit playing with Luka well, but I don't think they really did enough to help Luka get over that 50. You said 46 and a half?
48 and a half.
40. Yeah, I think that's too high. Especially playing in the West, I don't think there's enough wins, like you said, to get over that number.
Yeah. What else you got, Collin?
I have the Pacers under 23 and a half. So I don't think they'll be very good at all. And I think they'll be trading Hield and Turner eventually. So sure. I don't think they'll have very many guys other than Halliburton on their team to really even make a difference in them competing. So I don't expect them to win very many games, and I think they'll kind of be in that victory sweepstakes too. So I don't think they'll come close to that 23 and a half.
I feel like that's safe. I mean, I think the only guys that really care about on that roster are obviously Halliburton and maybe Duarte. I don't know. And you can pretty much. I mean, I'm shocked Miles Turner's still on the team. I mean, I'm shocked he hasn't been traded. Like that he feels like a Laker at this point to me.
100%.
So I'm on board with that one as well. Johnny, what else?
One more here. I've got Miami Heat. I think they're going to be under. I don't think they're going to win as many games as they did last year. There were 53 wins last year. I think they're 49 and a half. They're another year older, and they really haven't. I mean, they haven't improved. Kyle Lowry was just okay, towards the end of the season there and the playoffs. And I know they're so well coached with Eric Spoelstra, but you've got Victor Oladipo's seen his better days. Jimmy Butler, is starting to hit that age where you just don't know if it's gonna take a downturn, and he's going to have some games off and everything. And Bam Adebayo is a good player and serves a good purpose there. But, I think there's some inconsistencies with the way him playing every night. They just gave that big, huge contract to, who was it? Tyler Herro.
Yeah.
And
got the bag.
He'll give you maybe 25 or 30 a night, some nights, but he's just one of those guys that you just can't trust his consistency either. And I just don't see in the Eastern Conference improving, that them winning 50 games this year is anything I feel comfortable about. Now, are they in that, that 4, 5, 6, 7 seed? Absolutely. I still think they're a good basketball team, and like I said, they are well coached. But I do see some regression, though. I don't feel. I feel pretty comfortable about betting the under on that one, and them winning somewhere in that mid 40 range of games this year.
I agree with you. I think of all the teams that were right there in the East last year, of course, they're one shot away from going to the finals. They didn't really do that team any favors in the offseason. Lost PJ Tucker. They're just another year older. Kyle Lowry is one of the 5 or 6 oldest guys in the league. I just heard that today. Didn't really realize that. He had a ton of injuries last year. Yeah, you paid a lot of money to Hero. I notoriously love Tyler Hero, but I don't know if he is worth that. I'm sure Jordan Poole was happy to see Hero get paid because his time's coming. Speaking of six men, but I'm with you. I still think they win the Southeast Division. They're minus 150 to do that because there's just not. I mean, there's just not a challenger to me. But I think I'm with you on the under 49.5. My last one, since we've already hit the Nuggets. This one might surprise you guys. I have the Sacramento Kings going over 33.5 wins. I like this team. I like the makeup of this team. I can't believe it, but I feel like maybe they're doing some things the right way. De'Aaron Fox, I think, has been saddled by a roster that hasn't really fit around him since he's been there. But obviously the acquisition of Sabonis middle of last year, who's just one of the most skilled big guys in the league, can do so many things. Davion Mitchell provides some defensive intensity, some defensive stability that is needed. I really like what he brings. And I know the Keegan Murray pick in the draft kind of got blasted, but like he's been great in the preseason. And we, as Big Ten guys, we saw him a lot at Iowa, and he was. I mean, I couldn't believe how good he got at the start of last season, but he just continued to get better. And I mean, he fits the mold of today's NBA player perfectly. I think the rookie of the year race is him or Paulo. Murray's odds are better. I love him for rookie of the year. So yeah, this may be fool's gold, and it's the Sacramento Kings, but for them to win 34 games doesn't seem that much of a stretch, and I think they're going to be in the mix for the play-in. Collin, am I wrong?
I'm looking at their.
Oh, sorry.
What'd you say?
I was just saying. I'm just going to go real quick here. I'm looking at their team. They got a lot of scorers. I mean, not guys who are going to put up a ton of points, but I mean, they got guys they can bring off the bench that could get you, 10, 12 points, and they could shoot the ball. I mean, this is a little bit better of a roster than I thought it was.
Oh, and they also got Harrison Barnes. He's just, he's a solid pro. I forgot they picked up Kevin Huerter from the Hawks. Solid, just a solid presence. They have Bazemore. Who's the other guy I'm thinking of? Big guy.
Yeah, Malik Monk, who can score.
Malik
was
Monk
scoring for the Lakers last year.
Rashawn Holmes, just good player. Just
Rashawn Holmes,
yeah. I mean, I feel like they got a lot of guys. I mean, you have to wait and see if it all truly fits, but I feel like the makeup is there for them to be in the play-in. We'll see. Go Kings. Any other over-unders either one of you have that we haven't touched on?
That was all mine.
Johnny, you got any other ones?
We're probably gonna talk about the Lakers, but 44.5 juice to the over.
I think the smart play is the under.
I don't think. Absolutely. I mean, you're going to get maybe 35 games of Anthony Davis. I think they're going to start giving a little bit of load management to LeBron. I know he doesn't want to take days off, but last couple of years he's kind of gotten banged up. But I mean, just like what they did last year when Davis was gone, and then they'd have to have LeBron sit for a couple of days here, and then you'd have Russ Westbrook running the show. And I know he's not going to be as bad, and we don't know how Darvin Ham's going to be as head coach, but that seems like a pretty good bet at plus money to play under that. I know LeBron's good for a certain amount of wins, but you almost got to expect. I mean, you don't want to bet based on guys getting injured, just like with the Nuggets. We don't want to bet that because we want to bet based on potential, but the Lakers,
part
though,
of
I
it.
mean, they're going to give you what they're going to give you. And, you know, you're going to have Pat Beverly that's just going to fuck shit up. I mean, he's just going to dismantle that team.
It's funny.
Right?
I listen, I want the Lakers to be relevant this year. It's just more fun. I want LeBron to do more than just win a bubble title in LA, but this roster is not good. It's not good. I mean, going back 2 years, I mean, just before the start of the 21 season, they made the mistake with the Westbrook deal. We knew it at the time. Everyone knew it. And it's really just bared out worse than you could ever imagine. He's the second highest paid player in the league this year. He's making $47 million. And all you hear is how can they trade him? How, they're going to have to package a couple first rounders just to sweeten the deal for something in return. It's too bad because the Caruso, Kuzma, KCP guys, those were good fits for that team. Won them a title, and I just can't understand why they did what they did. But it's funny. I was talking to my kid today about the NBA, and we were talking about the Lakers, and this is like the second time I've mentioned him. Shout out Jackson. I said, who do you think the third best player is on the Lakers? And he knows these rosters really well, and he's like, I guess it's Patrick Beverly. And I said, yeah, that's really bad. Or I said, or IU's own Thomas Bryant might be the third best player. Kendrick Nunn. I mean, this is one of the worst rosters outside of LeBron and AD. And if you want to say Westbrook, whatever, the roster is just laughably. So I don't. One of my are we confident in questions deals with the Lakers, so I want to save that part for later. What else here? MVP. Let's talk about MVP here. And Johnny and I were kind of texting about this today. It really feels like, and it's kind of reminded me when we talk about like who can win the Masters. There's like out of a field of like around 80, we're like there's like 15 guys year to year that can win the Masters. Who can legitimately win the MVP? And to me, it's like I think it's like 6 guys this year. Is the pool that small, or do you think it's bigger, Collin?
I have it narrowed down to 4 guys that I like, but I could see it pushing up to 6 or so. But I don't think there's too many guys this year that really have a true shot at winning. But I could see up to 6 or 7, I'd say.
All right. So with that said, give us your play. You said the 4 guys you like. Is that based off of just who you think's going to win, or based on the odds? Like you like certain value, or what is it?
I didn't really look at odds. I just looked at who I personally thought was going to win. So my number 1 is Embiid. I think he's been so close these past few years, and I think his team got even better this year. So I think his team's going to be good, first of all. So I think they're going to have a good shot at being one of the top seeds in the East. And I think he's going to put up numbers. He was a leading scorer in the league last year, and he's going to average 30 and 12 this year, maybe, with good number of assists, good defense. So I think he's going to be up there. Has a really good shot at winning it, I think. At 2, I have Luka, just because he's, like you said earlier, he's going to probably put up 30-point triple-double, average that this year. His team might not be the best. That's why I don't think he has as good of a shot at winning as Embiid does. But with the numbers he's going to put up, I think he obviously has a good shot at winning. My 3rd guy is Tatum. I think he's going to keep progressing. He's going to become one of the top scorers in the league this year. I think he's going to lead that Celtics team back to one of the top 2 or 3 seeds in the East, and he's going to be on a good team, averaging good numbers. So I think he has a shot at winning his first MVP this year.
Okay, I want to talk about Embiid. Remember Johnny 2 years ago when we got him at 40-1 to win MVP. And
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, and it was
Yes.
maybe the best bet ever made on this show that we talked about. And he was well on his way, and then he got injured, which is one of the concerns of betting Joel Embiid to win that award. I'm on board with you, Collin. We didn't really talk about the Sixers until now, but I think you could feel pretty good about the Sixers over win total. I think you can feel pretty good about them winning the East. I think their roster got better. They got DeAndre Melton from the Grizz, who I think is going to be a really nice fit around these guys. There's the whole James Harden question. I always laugh I saw in an interview that he mentioned how good a shape he was in. I'm like, I have a fucking problem when professional athletes talk about how good a shape they're in. That is your job. That's all you were expected to do is show up to camp in shape. And that's drove me crazy about Luka, to be honest with you, because Luka's got to play his way into shape the first couple of weeks of the season. Like, that shouldn't have to happen. Maybe if that hasn't happened in the past, he would have already won an MVP. I do love the Embiid play. I think the Sixers are going to start fast, and that makes his number right now as good as it could be for a while. Because if they start off, let's say 14-4 over the first, 18 games, then that number is probably going to go down. He could become the favorite because of, team success does matter with this award. I did see in the last 25 years, the 23 winners have been part of a 1 seed or 2 seed. There's been 2 winners last year, one of them and Russ Westbrook in 2016 when they were part of a team that wasn't a top 2 seed. So something to consider there as well if you're thinking about betting this. Johnny, thoughts on that? Thoughts on? I know you like Luka. I know you like Embiid. Thoughts on them or anyone else?
Yeah, and that was the thing about Embiid. I mean, he was going to win that award. He was definitely the front runner. He was the favorite. Got hurt for 2 weeks and then fell out of it. And that's something you've got to look at. I'm a big Sixers fan this season. I like what they're going to do, and Embiid's the guy on that team, and that's that's going to be the thing. And they might end up getting the 1 seed, 2 seed, something like that, and that'll fit that criteria of or that qualifier that an MVP is going to win from that top there. I am still a fan of Luka winning it. You're right, that team is going to probably be 6, 7 seed, something like that. So he's going to have to definitely fight those odds there. But he's so good. He's just so much better than everybody. And I think just in the right situation, that guy is going to win, multiple MVPs just once they actually put him on a halfway decent team. You got to kind of go chalky with these, unfortunately. Giannis should win it every year. I mean, if you're talking most valuable, that guy is it. I mean, he is that guy. And I think he's only getting better, being in his mid-20s. I think he kind of – last year they were just on the championship hangover. So I think there was a lot of there was a lot of games that were missed for his teammates, and they just didn't win as many games, but he was still just as dominant. He just, they just didn't win because he didn't have the contributions that he had before. So I like that number at I think he's 7-1 on FanDuel. I like that number more than the Luka number, just because I think Milwaukee could easily be that 1 seed that's so coveted there. So, him being the most valuable guy. The 2 that I'll move down the list a little bit, and I liked him last year, love him this year, is John Morant. I think that team is pretty stacked though, so it's going to be hard for him to put the incredible numbers. I'm not saying we're going to see worse numbers, but I think they're going to win more games. But it's going to be because of how that roster is constructed. I mean, that is a good basketball team. And I think he's going to have to put away the personal accolades for the team, and I think he's the guy who does that. But the one long shot that I've already bet on, I talked about earlier, is Zion. I think the league would love it. Would love it if that guy took the award as the best player in basketball. I think the NBA would just do anything that they can to do that. And if we see an above average season from the Pelicans, where they're up there, competing for a 2 or a 3 seat, something like that, and it's because of Zion, I don't think the voters would hesitate voting for him. And he's right now, he started the ballot at, I think, 40-1, 50-1, something like that. He's at 25-1 right now on FanDuel. You might be able to get him better somewhere, but I think that's just got good value to it. It's just, you throw a little bit on there and you root for him to have a good season. If he does, his name's going to rocket up the odds, I would think.
Yeah. I mean, when Zion's been on the court, he's been a complete game changer. He's devastating. Can he stay healthy? Can he stay on the court? That's probably the big question for him this year. Which feels like, a couple of these guys we've already talked about. That's the issue. I don't really have much to add on the guys you've already talked about. Giannis, I think he's the best player in the world. I think he is just unbelievable. So, yeah, you can't really go wrong with any of those top three. Jokic can't win because he can't win 3 in a row. Hasn't been done since Larry Bird. So he won't win it. I don't love Durant. Collin mentioned Tatum. You mentioned Morant or John Morant. They're at 13-1. Reasonable, longer plays there. My name is drawn to Kawhi at 27-1 on FanDuel. I don't know what it is on other books, but Kawhi's never won an MVP, has he? From my knowledge.
No. No, he is not.
It's kind of his only thing left to do. I mean, he's been, one of the best players for, I guess, going back to 2012, especially that 2014 finals when he kind of made his appearance with shutting down LeBron. 27-1, and we haven't seen him in a while. So there is a lot of unknown there, but we know his potential. Is he going to be like peak Kawhi? And, just the way he can take over a game is unlike anyone I've seen, because it's almost like you're watching him in slow motion and you're like, this guy, he just pulls up from 14 feet, but it's so smooth and it's so hard to guard. So that's a number I was drawn to. I can't lie and say that I didn't notice Anthony Davis at 36-1 because the allure of Anthony Davis, but I want to touch on him in a second. Last guy, he won't win, but it's someone to monitor going forward, not for this year, but next 2-3 years. Anthony Edwards, 60-1. I think he's so good, and he's just scratching the surface of what he will be. Minnesota is going to be fascinating to see this year with the Gobert acquisition, a team that made a huge leap last year. And Edwards seems to be the alpha dog that everyone wanted Karl Anthony Towns to be, but Edwards is that guy. So that should be fun to watch him this year. Rookie of the year, I mean, I know Paolo is the favorite. Jaden Ivey is at plus 460. Keegan Murray is at plus 460. I mentioned I like Murray as the bet there. I don't know about you guys if you like anyone else. Collin?
I didn't really look too much into Rookie of the Year, but if I were to pick one, I think I'd also go with Keegan. I think he's going to have a pretty big role with that team, and I think that team's going to be fairly decent. So I do like him to win. I wouldn't mind looking at Jaden Ivey. I think his game does translate well to the NBA, like we said earlier. So I think he's going to be able to put up some numbers. And I don't think that Pistons team is going to be all too bad. So I think he might get some votes for Rookie of the Year as well.
All right, Johnny, are you in on that one or passing on Rookie of the Year?
It would feel like it would be Murray, but the problem is you tend to get buried in Sacramento. I think that's the one NBA franchise that it's just hard to get that notoriety. Now, if he lets his play do the talking and just plays, I think he's the guy who I feel comfortable at betting at that. I want to bet Jaden Ivey I'd love to, because that's my guy now, because he's on my team. But I'm not sure if with the other guys, with Bay being a scorer, with Cunningham having the ball primarily, if he's going to get all those opportunities and get up, 15, 18 shots a game to put up those numbers there. So I'm not sure if he's going to put up the personal numbers there, but at plus 460 for both of them, I think those are kind of my top two. Banchero, I think that number's too short. I think it's just kind of because he's the number one pick there. But I think safe wise, I think if you had a bet on either one of them, and at this point, for me, it would be a coin flip.
Any other award that you're interested in, Johnny? For me, I mentioned Malcolm Brogdon for Sixth Man of the Year. I love him at his number at plus 1,600 because of how good that team will be and the expected impact that he's going to make. I know he's behind Jordan Poole, Hero, Christian Wood in the odds, but I feel like for the value you're talking about, I think Brogdon's my guy there. Anything you like for that award or the other two?
Well, yeah, I would agree with you there. The six man's going to be, there's only going to be a few that's going to win that. I know Poole's minus odds or something like that. So, whether that holds or whatnot that's kind of a tough bet for me, because it's like, why are they already putting them at minus odds? But what most improved, before I even looked at the awards, I was like, there's two guys that I like as most.
It's the dumbest award in sports.
It's the dumbest award because you don't know what are they improving from. And I was thinking Tyrese Maxey. I think he's going to take a huge leap here. I think he's going to go from that really good. I think he was a six man last year. To he's going to be a potential all-star player here in the next couple of years, or Zion, because he's improved from literally not playing. Would that be the better bet than betting him MVP? And looking at it, though, I'm looking at the numbers or the names here, and Anthony Edwards is on there as a list. So if we're going to consider those guys there, I went from thinking I feel pretty good about those two names, and then you're throwing Anthony Edwards, RJ Barrett, Halliburton, Jalen Brunson. I mean,
that's what I don't get. Like,
I don't know the qualifications for. Yeah, exactly. What are they improving from? So
this award needs to be disbanded.
It really does. It really does. I'll never talk about it ever again beyond the ending of this segment of the podcast there. And then defensive player of the year is another hard one as well. I mean, you could go chalky and go Gobert, who probably should win it. But, Giannis is probably the best defender, but is he going to win the MVP? If he wins the MVP, is he going to win those? I'm not a big fan of anything but the MVP and Rookie of the Year, because I think those are just based on current season, how good they are as a player. So I don't like the other metrics, because I think it goes because they're voted on, by media and everything like that. It's really hard to judge how these guys are going to, how these media members are going to vote for these guys for these certain awards. So I'm going to kind of stay away from the rest of them.
Evan Mobley, Defensive Player of the Year, 20-1. That one stuck out to me. The most improved player is so dumb, because John Morant won that last year, right? I mean, when it was already clear that he was probably at a superstar level. So I really don't understand that. I did see James Wiseman for most improved at 65-1. And I also saw there was who was Jonathan Kuminga on the Warriors as well, who I like, at 130-1 for most improved. It probably won't win because it'll probably be Anthony Edwards. Apparently, he's already the favorite, and he's going to have a monster year. Okay, so been through over-unders, some props. I'm going to get to the Are We Confident segment. So 3 questions that we're all supposed to have. If we don't have 3, that's okay. Ask the question, and we'll get through this quickly, about maybe a minute to talk about it, to answer those questions that the other person has. Collin, what's your first Are We Confident in?
Are we confident in Trey and DeJounte Murray coexisting?
we kind of alluded to this earlier. I think Johnny is more confident in it than I am. And maybe it's my questions about Trey because I don't know what he can do off the ball because I've never seen him without the basketball in an Atlanta Hawks game. I think I was really confused a little bit by that trade because of guys that already have the same position. You're trading for a superstar, and I think Murray is a superstar that plays the same position as your best player. Now, 2-point guards can clearly coexist, but I don't know. I have some questions about Trey when he doesn't have the basketball. That's my answer. What do you think, Collin?
We're confident.
I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I haven't seen Trey kind of play in that off-ball guard role, and I think Trey and DeJounte are pretty much the same player. Trey's definitely a little better of a shooter, but they play that same brand of basketball. So I think it'll take a little bit of adjusting for them to coexist. I think they can do it. I don't necessarily know if they will. It might take a little bit of getting used to the first month or so of games playing, but I think they'll eventually get there, and I think it'll work out.
Okay. I'll go next and see if Johnny has come up with a question. Are we confident in Anthony Davis returning to his previous form?
That's a tough one. Personally, I don't know if he will ever get back to where he was, that dominant player we once saw. I don't know if he'll ever get back to that. He hasn't played a true full season in a while, and he's always dealing with some sort of injury. And when he has been playing, he hasn't been playing that same brand of basketball that we're used to. He hasn't been playing that dominant kind of post-play basketball. So I don't know. I don't know if he'll get back to it on this current Lakers team. He's the second guy, and I don't know if he really wants to play that physical basketball anymore. So I personally don't think we will see it this year. As for the future, possibly, but I don't think we will see it this year.
What do you think, Johnny?
We are not confident that Anthony Davis will ever return to that type of basketball player. I think he has reached a level, I don't know if it's of comfort, of confidence or lack of doubt. I don't know what it is, but I think exactly what Collin said is what made him unreal in New Orleans was he could play that game in the post and he could step out for three. He could take a big guy off the dribble and do anything pretty much on the basketball court. And I think he has now turned himself into just a kind of a spot up 3-point shooter for the most part, and has really limited the type of game that he offers. And now you question, he's got the one championship, he's got his contract. Is he going to be motivated at any point the rest of his career to be that great player? Because you'd think physically, age-wise, he still has 2 to 3 more seasons of that elite level. But all these injuries, they're piling up. And, and the question is, what I always say is you're either hurt or you're injured. And is he really injured, or did he just wake up and he's hurt, where he's aching and doesn't feel like he's going to play. And I just think that the motivation to play on these teams, play on these championship teams is gone. I mean, it's just not there anymore. Hopefully a change of scenery, whether that's the post LeBron era or if he gets traded to a different team and is motivated in a certain way. But that's the scary part about these NBA players is once they reach a point of a mentality or whatever it is, where they're done, they're done. And then, you can go to ESPN.com or whatever and look at any team and it'll show their current year's salary and look at the big names that are making 15, 16, 17 million dollars a year that are like, I didn't even know this guy was still in the league because he only plays, 9 minutes a game or something like that. And I think sadly that's where he is trending. And if he doesn't figure out a way to motivate himself, whether it's justifying the contract or justifying his ability to become a Hall of Fame basketball player, I think this is it for Anthony Davis for the most part. I mean, I think he'll show up, but what you'll get out of him is not what you expect.
I mean, that's kind of sad. I mean, he's what, 29, I think, 29 or 30.
Yeah.
One of the 75 best players to have ever lived, according to that All-Star game thing last year. Collin was right. I mean, staying on the floor, being on the floor is one thing, but when he's been on the floor, he was not good. He was the second worst jump shooter in the league last year. And I think that's part of the problem. He's settling for too many jump shots. The guy that we saw in the bubble, being a defensive presence, flying around. He got a lot heavier last year. And that's kind of what I was asking about with Cade. I was like, I don't know if getting heavy in basketball is all that it's cracked up to be. Maybe LeBron's one of the exceptions, but I mean, his build and, prior to 2021 was that of someone that was leaner and quick, and seemed like he lost some of that quickness, started settling for jump shots. I was like, maybe they should think about trading Davis. Interesting thought. And funny you mentioned, Johnny, just about how guys just wake up one day and it's gone. They're done. I've been thinking that way about two guys in the NFL this year, Russell Wilson and Matt Stafford. I'm like, yep. Are they like quarterbacks? It's weird. Like they just, one year they win the Super Bowl and next year, like they just literally can't play. So it could be the case with Davis where injuries have caught up to him. He's already missed a couple games in the preseason. So I'm pretty worried about him. Johnny, do you have are we confident in question yet?
Are we confident that DeAndre Ayton will reach his potential as a top tier basketball player and not be a distraction now that he got his bag for the Phoenix Suns and be a positive contributing member to that roster?
I'll answer this first. No, I am not confident in that. I've seen the quotes from him in the preseason. He hasn't talked to Monty Williams since last playoffs. I don't trust his motivation. I don't trust him. I just don't trust him as a player. He's shown flashes. I'm not in on the DeAndre Ayton experience, especially with him being paid $140 million contract. So I am not confident.
I'm with you there. I'm not confident at all. He hasn't really shown me much to make me confident in him, to be honest. He hasn't really seemed like he wants to play basketball. He kind of just gives me that vibe. He hasn't, like you said, he hasn't talked to his coach since last basketball season, which is concerning. He seems kind of like the guy that just wants his money and just to go up, show up and be there. He doesn't really seem like he wants to put in that work to really become that next level player that he could be. So I'm with you there, Phil. I'm not very confident in him either.
Feels like a live golfer.
Oh my God. You had to get live in here somehow. No, that's true. I mean, there's certain guys, there's only a select few, and this is not a good group to be in. I think there's a select few guys in the NBA or in, I guess, professional sports that can be that way to their coach, that can disrespect their coach and be just an okay teammate. And DeAndre Ayton's not one of them, especially to Monty Williams. I think he's Bonnie's a pretty stand-up dude, and they've got a good thing going. And I think the worst thing they did was match that offer from the Pacers there to sign him. I know the Pistons. They talked about that the Pistons were going to be big on Ayton, and I think he's one of those things that a change of scenery where you get him for a couple of years, he'd be fine. But I think he's going to be just until they trade him in a year or two, he's going to be bad.
Collin, next one.
Are we confident in Zion Williamson staying healthy?
I'm going to say yes, because I'm all in on him, but I think a lot of it was the weight issue. And if he can continue to keep the weight off, I have no reason to believe that he won't be healthy the whole season. I know that's a huge if, because he's always been he was a big guy in high school. He was a big guy at Duke. He was a bigger guy in New Orleans, but I'm
really big.
I'm hoping that because he's coming up with that first big contract that he can sign, is he getting himself into that right kind of shape where he can, he could be play 70 games, 75 games this year. So I'm going to say I'm confident.
I'm not confident, but I'm hopeful that this will turn around. I mean, if he could play 65 games this year, it's a huge success. Maybe 60 games. I mean, play 75% of the season, regular season games, get that team in the playoffs. I'm hopeful for that. Yes. Another guy can't stay at a playing weight, can't be in shape. These guys drive me crazy. My next one. I'm shocked this hasn't come up yet. Are we confident in Draymond Green not ruining the Warriors' quest for back-to-back titles this year? I'm shocked this hasn't come up.
Draymond is so irrelevant, though. Go ahead, Collin.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't really think it plays all that big of a factor in their success. So I personally am pretty confident that they'll be fine. I think they'll be able to move past this. Like Johnny just said, I think he's pretty irrelevant at this point. He has been a big part of their success in their. Is he what?
Is he irrelevant? Like he was really good in the finals last year. Like he was impactful the last 3 or 4 games when they turned that series around.
I mean, if you want 5-5-5, sure. That's about
triple
always
single.
Good for nowadays, but
he's never been
exactly,
a stats guy.
Single.
He's never been a stats guy, though. Even when he cost them a title in 2016. I mean, when he was really good, he was never a stats guy. It was all the stuff that he did that didn't show up in the score sheet. I hate saying that, but that's the way it is.
I don't really think this whole incident matters. Like I've heard from many different NBA players that stuff like this happens all the time. I think this was amplified because the video came out.
No way, this happens all the time. That was like an attempted murder.
It was bad. It was, but I don't know. I don't know what Poole did or what he said, but it was obviously something to make Draymond pretty upset. But I think they'll be able to move past it, and even if they can't, he's going to give you 5-5-5, like I said. I don't really think it's all that pivotal of a thing. And if not, I think Kuminga could come in and do exactly what Draymond does, maybe better.
What?
At this point in his career.
20-year-old Jonathan Kuminga is going to come in and do what Draymond does. Okay, at this point is what you're saying, not peak Draymond.
I think Kuminga could give you 5-5-5 right now, easy. Yes.
Wow. Johnny.
I'm not overly confident. I'm not super worried about what happened, but the issue to me is, that was a pretty bad punch that he threw and everything. But I mean, okay, so you saw the video. They're jawing back and forth. None of the Golden State Warriors players cared until a punch was thrown. So I think this goes on all the time. Now, he took it a little bit too far. The problem is with Draymond Green right now, and I don't know if it's a problem or whatever, but the thing with Draymond Green is he wants that max contract extension. He's been wanting that for 2 seasons now. He's talking every offseason. It seems like he talks about going home and playing for Detroit because he's trying to put that leverage, to get that max deal. And Jordan Poole's going to get that money that Draymond wants. So I think there is a little bit of that. Now they're going to have to figure out a way to play together. And you've got such a loudmouth in Draymond Green, who's such a huge presence in that locker room. I think it could affect it as far as if this goes on during the season. But Green is not going to get that extension that he wants to get, and he's going to be a free agent next year. And I think that a lot of what was directed at Jordan Poole was, you're getting my money, and that's why they're drawing back and forth. Now, can they replace him on the basketball court? Somewhat, yeah. He didn't put up much for stats, but the guy was he's excelled at defense, or has, and continues to. So, will it? I don't think they're going to win the NBA championship. First of all, just to have to defend the title, but I think this is going to go a little bit further on, and we're not going to see it. It's going to happen behind closed doors, in the locker room, where this is going to mostly affect this team.
I was interested in the salary stuff when I was looking at this today, because I'm like, how much of that was driven by Poole being in the last year of his rookie deal, and with, we mentioned the Tyler Hero deal, where he's probably got a $120 to $130 million deal on the table for next year. The Warriors cannot pay, Curry and Thompson. They're under contract for a combined $94 million next year. Andrew Wiggins is going to be a free agent. Poole is not yet, signed. I showed Draymond as having a $27 million player option, but I know that you're working on renegotiating into a bigger deal because new TV money's coming in, salary cap's going up, the whole thing. So yeah, they can't pay all these guys. I assume that they're not going to re-sign Wiggins, who was pretty integral to the championship run. So that's kind of a separate story, but I think it's really relevant to what happened. My favorite part of this conversation is both of you were like, it's, it was kind of bad, I'm like Jordan Poole looked like he got knocked out, and now you guys sound like Steve Kerr, like, oh, we'll get through this. I don't think it's going to ruin their chances, but I do think it's worth monitoring through the season. Like, I think there's a chance that middle of the season Draymond's traded. I do think there's a chance. We'll see how that plays out. Johnny, you got another one?
I got one more, since looks like we're getting further on time here. Are we confident the Boston Celtics can reach the NBA Finals without Udoka as coach this year, and going with one of their assistants?
My short answer is yes, because I think the roster is that good and that balanced. And like I said, the Brogdon addition was huge. They have experience now. Tatum's a superstar. Brown is probably right there when he gets the chance. I don't think there's going to be a huge fall off.
That was one of my questions as well, and I'm in the same boat as Phil. Their roster is really good. I think they got even better from last year, and I think Tatum and Brown are one of the best duos in the NBA, so I don't think they'll have any issue of competing like they did last year.
Okay. Yeah, I think I that's a clean sweep. I think so too. I think there's so many good assistant coaches in the NBA just as a whole that, Ime Udoka is I think potentially to be a really, really good coach. But look at these guys that have come up the channels here over the last, 10 plus years from being assistants and just paying their dues. I think whomever, and I don't even know who's taken over as the head coach for this season, but I think whoever it is, they're going to right the ship, and yeah, you're right, talent, and I think that seems like a team that has a clear goal to win the NBA championship. So I think they're going to be pretty motivated, despite not having Udoka as the coach this year.
I guess I have the last question, because it's been Collin's third got duplicated. I think this is going to be an easy one. I'll maybe I'm wrong. Are we confident in the Phoenix Suns championship window continuing to be open this season?
Collin?
No. I think it's getting very, very short here. I think the Western Conference is getting super competitive right about now, and I think there's a little turmoil in that Suns locker room. So I'm not super confident in them being able to continually compete for a championship. So I think they're going to need to to do something in terms of adding to the roster this year to compete, because I don't think right now they have the players to really compete for a championship this year. They're kind of running it back like they had been the past 2 years, and I don't think it's enough.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. I think they're going to still win quite a few games because, I mean, just the regular season, they're still pretty good. But, I mean, Chris Paul, how many more years of just really good basketball is this guy going to play? And he's been great. I thought he was done when the Suns acquired him. I mean, I think we had talked about that. You and I felt like it was like we didn't have much confidence in him. And he's been just as good as he was, when he first came out. But I think with the Ayton thing, and then, I mean, that performance that they had in the playoffs there, I think it was a Game 7, Booker just being, I mean, just hiding. I think that's gonna stick. I think that memory there with those guys, and that was just I don't want to say gutless, but that was just an embarrassing performance. And I mean, just something that you can't get whooped on your own floor like that. So I don't have any confidence in a playoff run. Wins, yeah, I think they're going to get their wins. They're going to make the playoffs, but beyond that, I don't feel good about them.
Yep, sweep that one as well. I pretty much echo that. Yeah, locker room discord. Ayton, Jay Crowder's unhappy. Chris Paul's 38. I like some of their other role players, but I just don't think it's quite enough. And it's weird with these championship windows that we talk about. Like, it felt like last year was their real chance, and really the year before when they lost in the finals to the Bucks, where I think they were up 2-1 and really had a golden opportunity, and then these things slip away, and then they really never get back. I kind of feel that way about the Miami Heat too. Got to the finals in the bubble. They're a shot away from the finals last year, and now I feel like their team went backwards in the offseason. I think both those teams potentially lost their window comparative to how much better the other teams got in each conference. So I'm with you guys on that one as well. Who wins the championship? Final question. Collin?
I have the Sixers winning this year. I think they've made some pretty big additions to their team. They're a super deep team. They have a lot of talent. I think Embiid's going to be one of the best players, if not the best player in the league this year. And I have them beating the Nuggets in the finals.
Wow. James Harden gets it done. Gets his championship as the second best player on the team. Johnny?
I've got Nuggets over Bucks in the finals. I think I think Giannis is gonna, and we really haven't talked much about it other than Giannis a little bit for MVP, but I think he alone is elite, and they're gonna get through the East. And we've talked about the Nuggets and how all their pieces. I'm hoping they stay healthy, and I think this is the year. This is gonna, I don't know the year, but because they've always been a kind of a first round flame out and everything. But I think they got the right pieces to win some games, and I think that's my prediction.
I'm with you on the Bucks side of it. I got the Bucks over the Warriors. The Warriors get back, despite the Draymond drama, whatever that is going to hold. But I think Giannis is, like I said, best player in the world. That's his title right now. And I think if Chris Middleton would have stayed healthy last year, I think they would have beat the Celtics. I think they would have won last year. So this year, I will take the Bucks to win it all. And Giannis will get a second championship. Boys, that was a lot to get through. Somewhere around 90 minutes. It might have been one of the longer ones we've ever done on here. So appreciate your guys' energy and diligence to the cause. Appreciate you being on.
Thank you. And that was fun. That was good time.
It was a good time. Thank you, Phil, for having me.
Anytime, guys. Collin, come back and talk about something else other than NBA. I'm glad to have you. All right. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Get this podcast up. And of course, check us out on YouTube. We'll have this video pod up in short order. We'll be back next week with something, talking about something. Not sure yet, but we will catch you next time.